the night before, I'm like, I should not release this. And then I took it down once I started doing tutorials.
Because of the nipples, or?
Not necessarily. So I started off in graphic design. So I went to university for graphic design at UNSW here in Sydney. I did a design degree, and just about at the end of that degree, I realized I didn't like graphic design that much. So I figured I want to go into illustration. I want to draw stuff and make stuff. And then I did that for a couple of years. And then it wasn't until I got hired to animate something that I really dug into After Effects and really discovered I like that a lot more, like balancing that creative, pure, just making something look good. That's when I really fell in love with motion design. I think, like everyone, we self-taught means I learned on YouTube, and I learned from every tutorial that they had back there, from on Video Copilot, Mount MoGraph, Jake Bartlett had some great tutorials back then, Evan Abrams, of course. So I learned on YouTube just like everyone else. My style definitely developed from the process of the animation. Before I learned animation, it was very much a lot more handmade, like less vector animation. There was a lot of hand inked, and then I'd scan in textures and apply those to it. But when learning After Effects, it's a lot easier to animate vector elements. I learned a lot of Illustrator and have slowly tried to find a workflow that makes the completely vector animations look a lot more sort of tangible and handmade and textured. That's one of the reasons I have so much texture and grain in there, is trying to match my original sort of handmade illustrations.
Hi, I'm Ben Marriott. I'm going to show you how I made this animated grain effect from projects like these.
What is Goon?
Well, this was my first video I did, and this is a result of really the first time I ever filmed myself. Look how close I am to the camera here. Look at, my eyes seem demonic. I did not blink.
Your eyes perfectly match the monitor.
Well, that was a little something in post. So tweak that. Give them the baby blues. I don't know how to speak and blink at the same time. I'm so focused on like delivering, what is essentially 20 words and not forgetting them. So yeah, I should have done that differently. And you'll see that in the comments of the first few videos, like step away from the camera and sir, do you blink? But this is the first video, so it's the least blinks.
Yeah. Can you play it forward through a little bit? There's a little Easter egg in here that I don't think many people will have noticed.
Oh my sure.
Right at the top there, if we just want to pause, there's a little note from the editor. Yeah, I'm going to go full screen next time.
I forgot completely about this. I forgot I put that there. When I was watching this back, I did notice that. I didn't realize that you could screen record and hide what essentially is like the dock, the taskbar in Windows. So that's up there. You can see all the programs I have open. You can see I've got Audible up there. The only people that would care about that stuff are people that are going to find that message and like
understand why it's there. Yeah, I love it.
All right, let's do the same thing with our iris. I'm also going to make sure that those two new texture layers are parented to the iris.
Becoming an educator was kind of a strange realization, because I didn't consider myself a teacher and educator. Coming in, I was just kind of showing off what I had made, that I think I tried to put into the channel kind of the feeling of you showing a coworker, of someone like scooting their chair over to yours and saying, how did you do that? And bring that kind of enthusiasm for something that I've found, like I've discovered this technique buried in this tomb. I like to make sure I have as correct information as I can. Like sometimes I do show a suboptimal way to get a result. Sometimes I do that on purpose, because otherwise I have to introduce so many other advanced animation techniques. Whereas for a beginner, this might be the quickest way from A to B. We're just trying to get through it together and figure out how to make these things based on just what other people have made. With my new videos, I'm really trying to find a nice balance between making content that's educational and entertaining, because I want to make something entertaining, but also I do still want it to be educational as well. So people that are familiar with my channel, that, like the content on there, that want to learn something about animation, they're still getting that as well. And I think finding the balance is interesting. There'll be some videos that have more and some that less, and I'm going to have fun finding which one works best for me. I think like the biggest thing you can do is put as much of yourself in it, but particularly into the content of what you make. So if you're a motion designer, showing off cool stuff you made for clients is great, but if you But you can really interject your personality in, first of all, like how you write about that, but also in your personal projects, what the written content is, what you're showing in your work. You're not just making a personal project to show off you know how to use the software and these skills. You may be telling a story. Even if it's a short 5-second loop, there can be your original idea in there, and that's where you inject yourself. Because the technical skills, there will always be someone who's better than you, who's cheaper than you elsewhere. That you can't compete on that because you're always going to lose. There's only 2 people that win in that scenario, and chances are you're probably not those. So if you focus on just injecting as much of your own personality and ideas into those as possible.
The idea was born on the First Fleet by Sir Stanley James Goon, inspired by Australia's oldest...
Please tell me the long story about the...
Okay, so I animated these nipples, which you can see here. They're on Sir Stanley James Goon here. So I put a lot of detail into these. I used CC Blend. I really wanted an action, so when his clothes ripped off, there was some overshoot in there, and the nipples were the best place to do that. I actually created a whole tutorial of how to animate nipples that was about 4 or 5 minutes long, and I released some teasers of it, and people thought it was a joke, and thought, I got lots of messages like, haha, great April Fools, but it's July. And then, because they ended up looking they're a bit too long for nipples, and people had other associations, so I canned that video, and it has never seen the light of day.
So the nipple video lives in the archive bin of Ben Marriott.
That is deep in the vault.
When you consider its incredible cost, Goon is unquestionably Australia's finest, cheapest wine.
Continuing to come up with ideas on the channel is a bit of a struggle sometimes. I do have a massive list in Notion at the moment that is at least several hundred ideas long. But the thing is, you write them, and then by the time you're 10 ideas deep, you've lost interest in all the others. But a lot of it does come from places you wouldn't expect. Sometimes it's seeing other videos and saying, I like something about that title, something about what they're explaining. How can I put a spin on that? I used to look at a lot of design tutorials, and they might say like how to make this in Photoshop. Then I get the process of, I can try to figure this out and crack something that maybe hasn't been cracked before. And there are a few tutorials that I'm proud of that I think, okay, I think I had maybe one of the first kind of takes on how to animate this.
I'm taking 2 of the most unfortunate and widely criticized logo designs of all time, and I'm going to use my years of professional motion design experience to redeem them with animation.
Tell me a little bit about this project, how you put it together, and sort of why you moved into this bit of, kind of direction for the channel.
Okay, so this is the kind of video I wanted to make when I started. Despite taking 8-10 times longer than any of my other videos, I had so much more fun making it. I'm going to be honest, was kind of reaching the kind of bottom of the barrel of like, how can I make something new that's exciting and that I would have fun making as well. So
it's going to be exciting for you as well as, the people who are watching.
Exactly. And I figured if I have fun in the making it, that will hopefully come across on camera. And I think it does. But hopefully it doesn't distract it too much and is entertaining and teaches you about the process at the same time. It was mainly, I had a few days to animate the actual logos. And then after I'd animated them, was making notes during that process, and then researching the elements of, before I animated them, researching how I was going to apply them. And I just found this wild stuff, like this clip of this conspiracy guy about the London 2012 logo. I thought, I find that really funny.
Yeah.
Can I weave that into the video somehow to justify me just showing this really funny clip? And that also adds a lot of drama to the video, and I can have a lot of fun with the music, and it breaks it up from being 12 minutes of a screen recording, which is just a mouse moving around and clicking different stuff.
Do you think that's sort of the way forward with how you want to teach After Effects, or
Definitely. I definitely see that as the way forward. This video, the response to it was great, better than I think any video I've ever made. So I'm not one to, deny a good idea when it's like staring me in the face. So the next videos that I'm making are a lot more in line with this, that have a lot more of a narrative of the journey of me making it and information about the concept as well, rather than just here's how to make it, which really only applies to people who want to learn that thing at that moment. Hopefully these are videos people can see who aren't interested in After Effects, who aren't necessarily interested in how to animate these logos.
Yeah.
They can get some enjoyment out of it.
Where do you come up with the idea to, put beans on toast, kind of just in this one frame of this animation?
Well, like when you do an animation like this, which is a lot about showing lots of stuff on screen at once, like these things do take a lot of time, maybe more time than you think, because it has to be something in there. You can try to cheat it and just put, a just texture that takes up a lot of shapes. But I think it's more fun if you make a decision about what needs to be in there. That's what I find the funnest part is like, what are the decisions the artist made to why this frame looks like this?
Yeah.
And if I'm going to put something in there, it may as well be funny.
Yes.
Because people, when they watch it, they aren't going to notice that's His Majesty the King's large fingers. But they'll just see a bit of texture. And maybe if someone's aware of that image, they're like, did I just see that?
Birds on toast? Yeah.
And it makes for a much more interesting breakdown in the video of this is how I made this, and I'm using an absurd example.
Yeah.
Like it's really easy, and I've done it many, many times to just use, I've drawn a shape layer that's a square, and I'm going to add this effect to this.
Yeah.
Whereas the thing, if you're adding an effect to like your base animation that you're using as an example, the more interesting that is, the more interesting the making of it is. Like people are way more interested in watching the making of The Lord of the Rings. Not that I'm going to compare one of my shorts to the making of The Lord of the Rings than the making of one rectangle in After Effects.
Yeah.
Hopefully I fall somewhere towards the Lord of the Rings side.
Look, in my opinion, there's wizardry in both.
Oh, thank you very much.
So I have a job to do. I wanted to approach animating this logo using a punk aesthetic. Lots of grit, texture, bold colors, and cutout elements that I thought would work well with
My creative process starts with some sort of seed of an idea that might be an effect I want to use, or sometimes it's just something I want to animate, like a design that I think is funny, or sometimes it might be a specific thread of I want to teach, this thing. But as soon as I get that idea, I create a new document and I just write down as many things as I can think about that I might want to say in that. And then I try to get into the design phase as quickly as possible. If I haven't designed something already, then I would animate that and then write a script. I really like to write pretty much word for word. And then I read that into my microphone. I screen record me building the animation again normally, chuck that into Premiere, slice that all up. One thing I do is I have my script on one monitor beside me. I'll kind of look towards that, read it, and then perform the action on my other monitor. And then I will just trim that in Premiere. So an 8-minute video might have 400 edits of me cutting out all those pauses, but they're pretty easy cuts. It's just, where there's a blank space, I'll cut it. If I'm doing something, I'll leave that in. And then pretty much into making the thumbnail and getting the title ready after that and making, some social content to share alongside it. I should be making the thumbnails earlier. Everyone recommends make the thumbnail even before you make the video, just to make sure you've got a good idea. I guess it might help.
Here is what After Effects looks like. If it looks like this, your boss isn't paying you enough. Here on the left, we've got our project panel. Here we can drag and drop all of our assets, our images, our videos.
So I wanted to make this because a lot of my content focused on pretty intermediate and advanced After Effects skills. And there is always going to be more people who are beginners at a software than are at an intermediate and then advanced. And I really just wanted to make a video that sort of got people into After Effects in a non-intimidating way. Because when I opened it up, it was at least 4 or 5 years before I actually opened it up a second time, because it is scary. There's a lot of panels, there's a lot of things that do a lot of stuff that you don't really need. So I just wanted to make a video that sort of breaks down, okay, these are the 5 essentials that teach the main principles, and you can use this as a starting, the ideal place to start, and then you can branch off into other tutorials and you'll know enough to understand them.
Yeah. When did you kind of make that decision to move away from purely teaching a tooltip and kind of take us a bit more along a journey with how you put videos together?
Really, I think the best way to teach something is, regardless of whether the content is great. If the content's great, if you're actually teaching people how to make something, that's fantastic. But you need to get people on board first. We all went to school and hated certain subjects or couldn't focus or things like that, because at the end of the day, it is really dry. So unless you are personally motivated and excited to make a project and learn these things, it's really, not that approachable. So I think it's kind of a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down. People refer to it as chocolate covered broccoli as well. You give people what they want up the front, and then later you can give them what they need.
There's so much more to explore, but these are the essentials and should serve you well on your first day. Good luck.
I found that whilst making videos that are meant to be entertaining, I'm having a lot more fun in the process as well, which means I'm way more willing to spend more time on it, and hopefully the end result looks better as a result of that. But yeah, enjoying the process. I'm beginning to learn is one of the things that I actually can control, especially working for myself, if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, I've only got myself to blame. So I'm really looking for ways to make that as much fun as possible so that this can be a sustainable career for me. I'm Ben Marriott. I design and animate and teach how to do both of those on YouTube.